So, I wanted to keep going about um, love, and I want to keep this stupid little side project going because I feel like there is a very big importance, right? A very big. Um, Hold on, let me just get these guys killed. That's a bear. I feel like there's something very important about being able to talk. Like I said, to be able to throw wind. Hold on, this guy's pissing me off. To throw words to the wind. Oh my god, I missed that. That was bad. Nope, baited. I'm not gonna die here. Okay, a little odd. Hold on. Okay, I think most of them are done. Just kill this bear. Um, but I think there is something very important, and I think it's part of the reason as to why I want to keep going with this stupid little side project. Um, it's important that we talk about nothing in particular, really, just talk about things, right? Because we've stopped doing that in the busyness of modern life. We just kind of ignore a lot of things, and I mean, we know they exist, but we don't talk about them anymore. Or we do, but just in the briefest way possible and in the most meaningless way possible. Um, and I feel like we should, because talking and wording things, they make us better people, right? I feel like that's part of the reason why writing is so important. I feel like that's part of the reason why sharing ideas is the central part of humanity, right? Um, is improvement. When we talk about something, when we um, even to ourselves, when we talk about the things that bother us, the the pains we've suffered, the aches we're afflicted by, it goes a long way to understanding whom we are and what lessons we can take from our own life. Which we don't do that often enough in modern society. We have really forgotten the art of self-reflection, right? We don't really think about it anymore, or we don't think about us anymore in the sense of critiquing our our humanity, our person. And I feel like we do wrong there, right? Um, cause because of um, the speed of modern life, we have just forgotten a lot of things, right? We've stopped doing a lot of things, and I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying by any means that you know, old times are better or whatever. People who say, oh, back then was better, or uh, back in my time was better, they're dumb, right? They are extremely dumb because no, they weren't better. You feel they're better because they're your time, right? Those are your times, um, and they weren't better, right? We have, and I think this is an important uh, thing to mention. We have a lot of good in our modern society. We have a lot of bad and we have a lot of good. Back then, in the olden times, whatever, fucking boomers like talking about, how they were better. They also had a lot of good, but good fucking lord, did they also have a lot of bad. um, and it's not fair to say that those were better times. They are. They weren't. They never were. Um, But you know, I think I understand why people talk about it in such a way, why they think it's better. Um, because they people that grew up in those times now expect today to be much better. It is better, right? It is better, but it's not perfect, and it never will be perfect because you know, humanity. There's some things we just can't eradicate. We can't eradicate war or greed. We can't get rid of some things because they're a natural extension of humanity, right? We can't get rid of um, gluttony or sin. We can get rid of those things. Um, so to expect our society to evolve to a perfect place, it won't ever get there, right? It's a dumb expectation to have, and I don't think we will get to perfection anytime soon. Um, because that's our way as humanity, right? We're imperfect, but we live with being imperfect, and it is very much possible that we are the only ones in the universe that we don't understand to live imperfectly. And I think there's a beauty to living imperfectly. Um, I feel like whilst um, sometimes we may condone living imperfectly, and we can expect and demand that humanity be better, um, and that we can wish for humanity to fix all its errors and get to everything. We're not getting there anytime soon, right? It's amazing that we keep on going, and then sometimes we look back and see how much we've gotten better at some things, and how much how much more ethically correct we are nowadays. Um, I'm talking about people, not the government, so don't hold your horses, right? Um, because I feel like that's an important distinction to make, right? Governments do not represent people. People represent people, and I feel like that's a dumb grass is green sort of statement, but it is true, right? Um, I'm talking exclusively about people, and that's always the the norm. I don't touch politics. Hold on, I don't touch it, even if my life depends on it. Um, not publicly at least, but it's not the point. Point being that we've sort of gotten used to not talking about things, right? We've gotten used to discussing things, but not the things that matter. You know, we argue about celebrities and commodities and goods and clothes and cars, and we argue about everything, right? That's the norm for our society nowadays. We just like to argue about anything and everything. Sometimes, well, actually, a lot of the times, without without a clear middle ground, right? It's either you're black or you're white. There isn't gray, right? Um, which I won't even get into how absolutely dumb that is. Um, but we just like talking about everything, right? And I feel like this is part of the reason why we give value to things that don't deserve their value nowadays. Is the fact that we talk about meaningless things, right? We discuss, but we don't discuss what needs to be discussed, right? Um, we think about so much, but we don't think about ourselves and our ethics and our morality. Um, and this is where I feel like um, the problem lies for modern society is the fact that self um, a self critique, a person who critiques themselves nowadays is rare, right? Because I feel like what what endures is the whole idea that I'm right, right? It's what most people act like nowadays. There is a capacity to be set in ways to an extent where it just becomes downright dumb. Um, but it's not the whole story, right? We have become even more stubborn than we were before in a lot of ways. Maybe not in um, in important topics like civil rights or gender or um, stuff like that. We have become stubborn in the sense that um, it's not that we don't want change; it's that we aren't open to changing opinions, right? We aren't open to change of our ideas. It's very rare to find somebody that can do that, right? That can see um, that they were wrong and then that something was more right, you know, and it's it's an important thing to be able to do in life, and it's lacking, it's severely lacking nowadays, and it's um, it's making society harder. It always don't get me wrong, society has always been hard, right? You put 100 cavemen living inside the cave, it's gonna be hard, just as it is putting 100 people in a room, right? It's never been easy, but the fact that we aren't open to change, that we are stubborn in our ways, that we aren't critiquing ourselves and like putting ourselves under scrutiny, it's making us worse human beings, right? And I feel like that's the lesson to be taken from all this, is that the quality of humanity is decreasing overall. And this like don't get me wrong, this is no fatalist thing. Like this has happened before, right? Um, it's not a matter of oh society is gonna end and whatever. It's not about being fatalist and saying that we're fucked. Um, but I think it is fair to say that we need change. We need some realizations we haven't had the capacity to have yet. Um, and if you can take anything from this schizophrenic ramble sort of project, um, it's that we should change, right? It's that there is nothing wrong with talking about things and sharing your ideas, no matter what, uh, because it is part of why humanity is so cool to me, at least. Um, but yeah, I think that's gonna make it for today. um, I do always appreciate making this, and like it is a very fun time to be able to have, and it's definitely important in some ways. But yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it here for now at least.